Perfect. I'll disappear into the audience and I'll answer questions on the notes. Cheers, Ryan.
All right, thanks. All right. Here we are, everybody. Happy Monday. Oh yeah, there was one other thing that I was gonna do. Welcome out to our beautiful onboarding session on this beautiful Monday morning. We're getting ready for another amazing week. Excited to be here to help you guys kick off your Bookmap journey. My name's Ryan, and I'm going to take you on a little tour of getting your Bookmap set up. So, also going to show you some of the resources that we have available for additional support and additional help for you guys as you dig a little deeper into Bookmap, and uh, as you have the thirst for more, trainings and more. Yeah, we could say trainings or Bookmap help, but also trading help. There is a lot that we have here for you. So I'll be sharing that with you guys today as well. Show you where all that stuff is. So um, yeah, again, let's jump into this. We'll get it going. We are broadcasting on all three platforms. So we've got a bunch of you guys in Zoom today. Just saw I had 7 in Zoom. I don't know how many are watching YouTube. That's pretty much impossible for me to track. We've got another 15 or so, 13 in Discord. So welcome out, and the numbers keep climbing. We actually started to add a lot more of these sessions onto our calendar because we have so many new users joining Bookmap every day. Something like around 600 people are coming in, at least setting up like a trial and starting to experiment with Bookmap as the as it's becoming, I would say, like especially the liquidity side of the market is becoming now a little bit more known. Where 5 years ago, only compared to how many traders are just in the world, you would maybe classify it as a handful of traders even knew that this side of the market existed. And so, welcome out, everybody. You are in the right place now. Um, Let me just move. Where did my tool go? As I'm doing and opening so many things. I lost my, there we go. All right. Well, even for me, like the liquidity side of the market was a very new concept for me. It was actually in about 2010, I met a mentor of mine who he had 2 seats on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and he was on the committee that created the S&P 500 futures contract. And when he first started looking at my trading, he just kind of, I remember he kind of laughed, and it kind of hurt my feelings because of how much time and energy I had put into it. But he said, you're trading backwards. And again, kind of took me by surprise. But being what I consider one of the most coachable people on the planet, I decided to just listen and hear what he had to say. But he actually took the time then to walk me through what we at Bookmap just refer to as the real market. Um, but he walked me through really the mechanical side of the market over the next little bit. But one of the things that he mentioned, and I was touching on it a little bit as we were kicking off, is he said, yeah, you're trading backwards. He says, but don't worry about it. It's not your fault. He says most people trade backwards, and he says it's because it's the only market you've ever been shown. Most retail traders are limited to about 5% of the market. Trying to trade from that is just like it's like navigating blind. So he introduced me to, like I say, what we call the real market mechanics. Um, and then Bookmap was, this was 2010. Bookmap was started to be created just a few years after that, um, and really designed for traders who feel like something's missing. Bookmap, I would say, like, if you've been trading and you feel like you've got one hand tied behind your back or you got one eye closed, it's because that's really how it is without having access to liquidity. And I'll show you why with some of that stuff. But really, Bookmap it was created for traders who feel like something's missing. Traders who want a little bit more consistency, and I would also say traders who just want to do it the right way. There's a million just kind of conventional technical analysis charts that you could get for free anywhere, but that is not going to give you that full market depth. But the goal of Bookmap is really to level the playing field. You no longer have to work on Wall Street to get access to the full market. A couple of kind of fun did you knows. And this is one of the things that my mentor showed me is he was showing me how the markets are controlled by the law of supply and demand. It's not the theory of supply and demand, it's not the concept of supply and demand, it's the law of supply and demand. And it's very simple. It says when there's more buyers than sellers, price goes up. When there's more sellers than buyers, price goes down, right? And that is one of the governing laws over our financial markets. So in short, it's all about order flow, right? Where are the buyers and where are the sellers? But an interesting thing about the order flow is, and this is across the board, not in any given scenario, on any given transaction, this could be way different, almost to 99 and 1%. If they're at point of transaction, when you have an institution going and buying, trying to acquire 100,000 shares of something, or 20,000 contracts or something like that, at that moment in time, the institution could be more like 99% of the liquidity in the market. But on average, spread across the day, retail traders make up about 20% of the order flow, and institutions make up about 80% of the order flow. So in a supply and demand world, the retail trader is really at the mercy of the institutions. Buying when an institution is selling, so being on the other side of the market, would be a lot like standing in front of this truck right here. Bookmap really helps you, gives you the visibility and helps you align with order flow, so you're not stuck fighting it. I always think about swimming. If you've ever been in a river and you've tried to swim up current, how difficult that is. We were in Massachusetts. I used to live on Cape Cod. I live in California now. I used to live on Cape Cod, and we were swimming out on Martha's Vineyard. We were swimming in some of the tidal rivers just to see how far we could go. And I remember one day we made it about 2 feet before we were just completely exhausted. Here's a report that I wanted to share with you. I track this every single year, but for the sake of time, I just figured I'd show you 2024. Right in here, this is Goldman Sachs 2024 annual trading revenue out of their annual report. Goldman Sachs was profitable. 93 days were profitable. 93% of the days were profitable days. Only 7% of the days were losing days. One of the things I'll also call out is how they keep all those losing days very, very small compared to those winning days. And they had 62 days where they made over $100 million a day. When the participants in the market that are also, because they're a representation of the institutions, when participants are controlling not only the majority of the liquidity, but they're this consistently profitable, trading against them is not a winning strategy. It is a very costly mistake, and it is one that most traders don't even know that they're making, and they're doing it over and over and over and over again. But Bookmap is like Bookmap is like sitting next to the smartest kid in school, right? And being allowed to copy their paper. The key here, and what really sets some of these processes apart that you can do in Bookmap, you're not predicting the future. And so many traders get caught up on what's going to happen next and what's going to happen next because they don't have full visibility onto what's happening right now. We don't predict the future, we just learn to follow the leader. Now, my mentor, when he would tell old war stories about the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, he would talk about before the markets were electronic, the independent traders would try to sneak back into the clerk's office on the major exchanges so they could see the institutional order flow on the clerk's desk. They would look for the big stack of buy orders and the big stack of sell orders. They'd look for the biggest stacks of buy orders and the biggest stacks of sell orders that they could find. And the key with this, and the reason that they would do all this, is if you could see a big stack of buy orders and you could see a big stack of sell orders, then you pretty much knew the low for the day and you knew the high for the day, right? You knew the low for the day and you knew the high for the day. You knew where the market was going to go down to because the market goes to the liquidity. Some of these orders would get filled once price got there, But these unfilled orders would create that unbalance and it would push price higher. Once price got to this big stack of sell orders, some of those sell orders would get filled, but then these unfilled orders would create an imbalance that would push price back lower. And so they would go and they would try to find, they would try to see the stacks of orders, and then they would just wait for price to get to those areas of imbalance. They would buy when the institutions buy, and then they would sell when the institutions sell, and they would call it a day. This chart right here is just kind of a conventional chart. Shows price, shows volume, it shows the averages of price, it shows the averages of volume, but it doesn't show where any trades really occurred. And more importantly than even like at what price, I would say, is in what context. The real market is actually hidden behind this chart. The real market's actually hidden behind the candles. And it's professional grade information when we're talking about every single order inside of the market. It's not something that's just given away. And in fact, on the institutional side of things, it's one of the last things that they want anybody to have access to outside of their business, because if you can see the order flow, it's like seeing your competitors' cards, right? If you were playing a hand of cards. Now, but that's exactly why we created Bookmap and specifically the Heatmap. And so this is the Bookmap Heatmap. It shows where the orders are waiting to be filled in real time, just like the clerk's desk. This is one of the great tools that helps you stay on the right side of liquidity. The red and green dots are the volume dots, and so we have the heat map, which are the bars that you see running horizontally, which show all the passive order flow, and then the volume dots show where all the aggressive trades are taking place. And so that's where you're going to be capturing, or that's where we're capturing and displaying market order activity. A lot of the algorithm trading systems live in there, and yeah, and so with this, you have a combination of the passive and the aggressive. So you can see not only just the pending orders, which is where a lot of market makers are sitting and a lot of activity and pending activity goes on, but then also the aggressive order flow. The horizontal lines in here, you'll see in a minute as it'll look, great question, and you'll see in just a second as I pull up the actual chart view of it. You'll see how it lines up to price. And so what these horizontal lines are essentially is where there's pending stacks of orders. And so if you look over here on the right side of this screenshot, that's why I put these stacks of orders, right? It's like I took the desk and I turned it on its side. So here's a big stack of buy orders down here, and here's a big stack of pending sell orders up here. And there's controls on it for your color settings. And the darker it is, the larger. And you'll also see that in your depth of market view that generally is going to be on the right side of the chart. Probably displayed a little bit better in this picture here. So we have our market book, and you can see this big stack of buy orders right here, and another one right here, and it's also displayed horizontally. Now you can see this bar right here, it doesn't continue on through because it was there until finally the market liquidity pushed through and absorbed that level. So first it came down, hit that area. You can see how it was darker before it bounced out, but eventually that area got weaker and weaker, and it was able to push through. And so that's why it's not to the right of that price action. But so more of what it will normally look like right there. All right, let's get you guys logged into Bookmap. You may have already done a bunch of this, but just in case, first step, and you might be on your phone. Hang on one second. Oh wait, I forgot to have this little button right here. All right. Yeah, and so if price pushes through, then that level just gets taken out, and then the color won't continue on to the right. So you come up here, you go to your login button, click login, get logged into Bookmap. And so some of you might even be doing this on your phone right now, right? If you're on your phone, make sure you go to your desktop. This is a desktop platform. We do have web versions and things like that, but the desktop is where you get that full market depth. It's pretty impossible to display everything that that we display in Bookmap on a little phone screen. And so for your best experience, make sure you're going into the desktop, go online, go to Bookmap, click log in. Once you're logged in, you're going to have your license key, which you can sign in, via the web here, and so it'll automatically associate it with your Bookmap platform. But you're going to want to download your appropriate. You're going to want to download your appropriate system type. Select your system type, and then over here in version, there's always like beta and different tests will be running. Always just select the production one, and you'll be kept on the most up-to-date version of Bookmap. Go ahead and download that. It's going to kick off that fun little download sequence that always happens on our computers that I'll show you in just a second. And then select your appropriate subscriptions, right? So you're going to want to make sure you have the appropriate access. So when you go into your core subscriptions, there's a few in here. You can see there's digital, and you can do them monthly. You can do them annually. Here's global monthly, global plus, and global plus. I highlighted global plus here. You get about 20% off when you do it for an annual. But I highlighted Global Plus because Global Plus is the one that makes it so you can trade directly from Bookmap. So Global and Global Plus are great. They give you full access to futures and stocks. Digital is pretty much just cryptocurrency. But Global and Global Plus give you access to everything. That's why it's called Global. So it gives you access to everything. But Global Plus is the one where you can trade right off of Bookmap, right off of Bookmap. So always important to jump in, or always important to utilize the platform to the fullest, so that you can get all of the benefits of the platform. Next one is you got to figure out your data feeds, right? So inside of the data feeds, you've got Bookmap, which is always just the easiest one to use. Just grab the CME bundle, or grab just the CME. It all just depends on what you're going to be. It all just depends on what you're going to be trading. You can set up equities through. You can set up equities through Bookmap. You can do it through DXFeed. You may have another. Data feed that you're already using. Some of those you can sign in and just connect to Bookmap. If you want to take a little, I had a group ask me a couple days ago doing one of these that well, what contracts trade where. So I made a little list of some of the major contracts and where you would want to get exchange data. If you want to take a screenshot of this for when you're for when you go back and try to set up your data, if you haven't already set up your data, then you can take a screenshot of this to help kind of guide you through that process. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to get real time on it, I think is right. And Dan can even chime in on that to make sure I'm saying all of the connections right. They'll all automatically populate with like 3 symbols on delayed data, and so you'll have like Apple, and you'll have Bitcoin, and you'll have like S&P just on the classic download. But I don't think you can get it to real time without being on. But Dan will make sure I'm not saying Dan will make sure I'm not saying the wrong stuff. He's chiming in right now. But yeah, so make sure you grab the appropriate, not only just platform setup, but the appropriate data feeds, and you'll be off and running. So, like I said, it gives you the classic little download box where, all right, I got it right. I was pretty sure about that. I'm like, I need to go back through the list of features on all of them. But so right in here, we've got, the download button, open it up, run your or run the setup wizard. It'll take you through. It'll get you all the way to this spot where you've got opening up Bookmap, which there's so many cool features all through Bookmap. I never would have thought the download step could be so much fun. But when you're first getting into Bookmap, you'll see this, and I wanted to just kind of walk through a few of the things on here. Number one, like most platforms, there's a simulated mode, right? This is where you want to start. Start in your simulated mode. This is like trading Monopoly money, right? It's not real money. You can still, when your platform's hooked up, you can still do it live. So you can be in the live market trading simulated money. This is where to me you learn how to use the platform. It's hard to learn, I've been trading for about 25 years, and it's hard to learn how to trade in simulated mode. You really don't get that full experience, but what you learn in simulated mode is you learn how to use the platform in simulated mode. Why you don't really learn how to trade in simulated mode is, and for those of you that have been trading for a little while, you know this E word, right? There's no emotions in simulated trade, right? You're not dealing with real profit and loss. And one of the hardest things for a trader is to really harness those emotions and keep those in check. How we like to keep those in check is by making sure that you're trading with an edge, right? And an edge is one of the things we like to call it, but to simplify that, an edge is a plan. Now, the emotions, though, can sometimes take us and make us change the plan, mid-step, and that's one of the things that we've got to we've got to handle. But simulated trading, you'll learn how to use the platform, right? Make sure you understand how to use the whole platform. Do that in simulated trade. And then you also have trading mode, and then you also have replay mode, right? And I want to call out replay mode because it is awesome. Replay mode is one of the ways where you build this edge, and it's one of the ways where you're able to work on your emotional side of things. Replay mode is like your accountability buddy, right? It makes it so you can do accountability sessions, and so you can record all the data, you can record all of your orders, you can record your whole chart, and then at the end of it, you can download the file and go back and rewatch it, and you can watch how you traded that day, and you can grade yourself. Did you follow your plan? Were you executing high probability trades, or were you just kind of winging it that day, right? And so you're able to go back through and say, here's my plan, here's how I trade with an edge. Did I follow that process? Did I execute? Trading with an edge? And so those little pieces of those little tools that are inside of Bookmap are just phenomenal. So we've got it downloaded, we've got it connected. It normally populates with, I mentioned a few minutes ago, with 3 different vehicles. So you'll have a Bitcoin. Usually there's, I think, Apple's one of the defaults, and the ES. When you set them up, they're running on delayed data, and so you're on about a 15-minute delay. If you went in and clicked all those and you X'd them all out, you may end up with a blank screen similar to this. There's instructions right here on how to connect your platform. This green box is something I added just to call attention to it. Your platform won't have the green box. But how you connect platforms, how you connect your data, is you go up to this button here, Connections, and then from Connections, go to Configure. Once you have it configured, or once you click configure, it's going to bring up your configurations portal. And one of the first things that you're going to want to do is add a platform, right? Go ahead and add a platform, and some of you it'll already be done on your platform, but make sure that you have Bookmap Data installed. So I'm going to click this install button, and then you're going to see it. Click OK. And then you're going to see it at the top of the list showing that it's actually been installed, and you have a remove button instead of install. So now we know that that Bookmap Data has been connected. Click OK. And now that I've connected the platform, just going to add the connection. And now from here, there's lots of different platforms that we can connect once we have this all configured right. Once you go through those first few steps. Server location, one of the things I'll call out, you can select your own server location if you would like. We always just recommend that you use auto so that it geo targets you and gives you the fastest connection. And then we have the different connections up here, where this is also where you can go in and you could select like DXFeed. You can connect to interactive brokers. You can connect to Rhythmic. Right, there's a ton in here that you could go in and potentially connect to for data. I'm just going to leave it on Bookmap. Go ahead and hit that OK button. Now, nothing really changed, right? We're looking at it. Nothing really changed. So we've got to make sure, though, that it's on. So go to Connections. There's my Bookmap data. And sometimes you just have to check that box to make sure that your data is connected. And now your platform will start to come to life. When you want to add instruments, the first thing that we do is go up to this plus sign. Like I say, usually it defaults with a few, but you can go up to this plus sign. We can click on that, get the the subscribe portal out. So now we can say, do we want to look at Apple? We can type in, what we want, what type of vehicle it is it a stock or a future? What exchange is it? What's the symbol? For me, I'm generally trading the ES, and so here's what that would look like, where I have futures, I'm on the CME, and I'm trading the S&P 500. You can select here how much historical data that how much historical data that you want, up to up to 7 days. You can adjust your tick size and your size granularity if you want. On the ES, I really don't feel like there's a reason to do that. If you were on like Bitcoin, something that's trading at like 90,000, you probably don't want it to. You probably want to adjust your tick size a little bit, but the S&P, no big deal there. So we've got it all set up. Once I hit subscribe, subscribe is going to just launch the chart. So it actually connects the data to the display and starts to look like this, right? I'm on my my screen here, but oops, where did it go? Oh, it's over here. Too many charts. Too many monitors today. 4 monitors. And so here's the live one. We have the S&P running right here. We have different stacks of orders up here in the heat book, all the way to here. You see the horizontal bars. The darker they are, I can control the even the color contrast here to make them brighter, make them a little dimmer. Things like that. I've got my order book over here. I've got my chart volume, and then I have my depth of market. So this is just a slide right here, so that if we're doing it when there isn't a live market, it's just easy to run through this and show you where everything is. Now you saw a few things on my chart that aren't on this one. If you go up to, one of my favorite things is I love trading off of the depth of market. So if I go and right click up here, it's going to bring me this menu, and I'm going to go trade on depth of market. That's this DOM. And then add the default DOM columns. It will add everything that you saw on my chart. So we've got our market depth, we've got our order book, we've got our chart volume, we've got our buy and our sell orders, we've got our bid and our ask. And so on the bid and the ask is where we can actually interact right with the market. But before we do that, you may open up your platform and try to click on things, and things aren't happening. And how do I trade? And before you can ever make a trade on Bookmap, you have to turn the trading center, the panel on. And so over here, this TCP, it's on off. You can trade off of the chart, or you can trade off of the depth of market. I always just select both, but you can trade right on the chart, or you can trade on the depth of market. And so once you turn that on, the other thing that you need is a quantity. So you have to have your quantity set in here for you to be able to trade. So change that to a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or whatever, however many shares or contracts you're going to be trading. And once you have that selected, then you are ready to go, right? Once we have our quantity selected, now I can come right over here and I can click on the offer column and create a sell order. Or I can click on the bid column and I can create a buy order. Once I click on one of those, it will put it right onto my screen. And so if I go on to even just my live chart here, I could come down and say, we're not doing a whole ton of analysis with this. But we could come down. We have a big stack of even buy orders down here. There's some left over there. We're in a, let's see. Well, we'll just put it on so you can see an order. So actually, I'll just come up here to get it out of the way. The one thing I like about the depth of market trading is I can come right over to here, and if I'm above the NBBO, so if I'm above this national best bid and offer where things are transacting right now, it's going to change my order type, right? So if I'm above and I'm buying, it's automatically going to make it a stop order. If I'm below and I'm buying, it's automatically going to make it a limit order. Same thing on the sell side. So it automatically does the appropriate order type for you based on your relationship with the current market. So if we come up here and we hit let's just throw a sell order on up here. It says you want that limit sell order at 69.43. Yeah, send it. Right, so there's my sell order right there, and you can see the purple line dot 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 all the way across. It'll stay purple until it gets filled. Now, so we've got a sell order, up in here. So, but again, you got to make sure that your trade panel here, your trade control panel is connected and turned on. and have a quantity in place. Now, a few of the things inside of Bookmap, some of the resources. Make sure that you're going into this educations tab, and so when you get to bookmap.com, go and you've got it all downloaded. Go to the educations tab, and there is a whole course on just getting started. And so a lot of the basics in Bookmap are covered here. We've touched on some of the basics as far as downloading and uploading versions and things like that. Different ways of connecting different data types. Adding symbols, we added a symbol, but there's 2-minute videos. These are great videos to go back through and watch, and really get more familiarized with Bookmap. On the rest of the videos, so there's onboarding you into the volume dots and onboarding you into the heat map as well. All the settings in it, and a nice overview of the heat map. Yeah, and so if price goes through a bar, then that then that level got absorbed. So whatever pending orders were there got taken out. So you'll probably even see on the volume dots, you'll probably even see that there was, well, not always will you see that there was like a big market order, but you'll see that so I guess the most important thing to remember is once price pushes through, price cannot push through if there's pending orders. So all pending orders have been wiped out at that price, all passive orders for price to go up through it or down through it. And if you think about if you think about the supply and demand concept, more like this. If there's pending orders, price cannot go below that. The only way that price can actually, the only way for the market price to get below, in this case, 71, and so this is where you would see that big orange bar across the chart, right? The only way for price to get below here is if enough sellers came in that it filled all of these orders. Right? That it filled all of these orders. You can't have a buy order right here, a pending buy order, and the market just skip past it and not get it and not fill it. It's actively going to fill all of those, or it's going to turn the market around. If there's still orders, it'll turn the market around and head it up. So if something gets wiped out, if it pushes through a level, it's because some supply came in and took out and took out all of those orders, which is one of the reasons you don't just rely on just the heat map. You don't rely just on the volume dots. You have to have those combined and then even market context with it, because also inside of inside of your passive market, inside of your like your order book, which is what we're talking about here, which really gets displayed on the heat map. You'll see how do I want to say this? You'll see stacks of orders that are even at kind of random prices, fairly usually far away from the MBBO, but it's because market makers are required to stay active. And so active just means orders. And so they'll put an order on, 30% out, not in an area that we're even like worried about, but you'll see those turn on and turn off and turn on and turn off as they become less active or they become more active participants throughout the day. Once you get through those getting started sessions, make sure you jump over to Market Mechanics, and there's about 4 hours worth of content in here with Bruce, our chief educator, where he takes you on a deep dive of everything going on in this platform, but also just how to analyze, how to put things in context, how to combine the different stages of order flow. And so this is a great 4 hours. When the first time I went through it, I was shocked that this is just that this course is given away for free. I told him, I was telling Bruce, I'm like, you should charge $2,000 for this course at least. And he reminded me that Bookmap is a trading platform. I'm like, oh yeah. He's like, so there's so much amazing information in here, and with one goal in mind, all of it, not just in the platform, but on the education side, is how can we make sure that everybody has all the information and all the skills that they need to go in and succeed in the market. Once you're done with market mechanics, go up to the community page, and really you can do this at any time. You don't have to do this in order, and make sure that you're registered for Discord. I know we've got about 7 of you. Oh, if my 12-year-old was here, he just would have said 6, 7. Um, we've got looks like 6 of you now um, in Zoom. We've got 17 of you here in Discord. So for those of you that are in Zoom or you're just watching this on YouTube, make sure you go to bookmap.com, go to the inside of the portal, go up to community, and go to Discord. This is where our online community lives. We have, as you can see at the top, we have 28 different scheduled events right now, live trading rooms, all the way from live trading rooms to onboarding sessions like this. And so I would say, really I should have said it the other way, all the way from onboarding sessions like this to live trading rooms with, with like Tom in, what's that going to be? In like 3 hours, Tom's room will kick off, and uh, it's under market mechanics. So if you go to education, and it's the one under market mechanics is the title of it. But yeah, and it is just on the back on bookmap.com inside of the education portal. So it's back on bookmap.com, market mechanics. But so with Discord, like I was saying, we've got about 28 different events that are just scheduled right now. Go ahead and get set up for Discord. Inside of these events, there's also another session that I always recommend that everybody get involved with. You can go on and click interested so that you get the alerts for these. But it's every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. Bruce does an all market analysis covering everything going on in the market, where all the order flow sits, what happened that week, things that we're staying on top of. It's also a great spot to go in with your own situations and your own questions to say, hey, I did this or I saw this. What does this mean? And Bruce is able to handle that with everybody. And Bruce is our chief educator, and he has probably forgotten more about he's probably forgotten more about the order flow side of the market than I've ever even learned. It's always pretty amazing when I have a chance to sit down and spend a little time with Bruce and hear and just kind of hear the wisdom and the experience come from him. And so these are sessions I would very much go in, click the interested button on each one of the days. Each day is you register for each day separately, but this is part of the Bookmap community. Go in and click on the events, and there's tons of events in here. You'll actually have to scroll down to find these ones with Bruce, but you can see there's 28 on the list right there. When you get in there and inside of Discord, this is where we do talk a lot about trading with an edge. The 3 most common and costly mistakes that we see traders make is what we talked about earlier: buying when institutions are selling. That's like running into a semi truck. Same thing, selling when institutions are buying, but then not having that objective process, not having that edge inside of the market, and that is one of the things that that market analysis course, that all analysis course is so powerful for. Once you get inside of there, you'll also see another program called the pilot program that's ran by Bruce, where he has. We've even built different tools inside of Bookmap to help you pre-identify situations for a likely trend reversal. And so you can join the pilot program once you're in there. If you're looking for trend reversal is always going to be at very specific times when you're looking for those. But that's another edge that you can start to incorporate in your trading. Bruce's pilot program. Now, I wanted to show you guys, I know we've got maybe, these are always 30 to 45 minutes. We've got maybe 5 minutes left. I want to show you something real quick. One of just my all-time favorite things inside of Bookmap. There's so many things that I love inside of Bookmap, but one of them is this. A little while ago, how long ago would this have been? Probably 15 years ago. About 15 years ago, I was still living in Boston. Oh, I didn't live in Boston. I lived in Hyannis, but if you're not in New England, you probably don't know where Hyannis is. I was living in Hyannis. I was working more up in Boston, but and I figured this out. It kind of like it's one of those moments where you have like this little moment of clarity, and you realize you've been doing something wrong, and you just all of a sudden realized how to do it right. And so when we're trading, you're going to have a stop, you're going to have an entry, and you're going to have a target, right? And let's just say this is $10 and this is $9 and this is $13, just for the example. But so in here, and I was taught risk to reward ratios. Like the first day I ever started trading, that was one of the very first lessons, was risk versus reward, right? And so how much are you risking? In this case, we're risking $1 to make, in this case, $3, right? So we have a 3-to-1 reward to risk ratio, or a 1-to-3 risk to reward ratio, however you want to say it. Either way, it's accurate, right? So in here, we stand to make, right, $3, and we stand to lose $1. And that's our risk, and that's our potential reward. And why a 3-to-1? They were like, why you need to have a bare minimum of 3-to-1 is so that you can make 100 or lose 300, or whatever your numbers are, right? Make 100 or lose 300. Make 100 or lose 300, right? And those are the options in here. And if we lose and we lose and we win, right, that still gives us a net result of minus 200 plus 300. And so what that means is I can have a 33% win percentage and still be profitable, right? That's going to equal a net profitability of $100 at a 33% win percentage. Now, the thing that hit me one day as I was I was going back through my own trades is there's another step inside of risk to reward that if you don't do right, the risk to reward ratios don't matter. Because I remember somebody said to me, you have to have these risk to reward ratios in place, and you have to have a minimum, like 3 is your minimum, 4 is even better, 5 is even better, but you have to have a minimum in here that aligns with your win percentage so that you can run a profitable trading business. And I was still very, very much like struggling. I would make some money, I would give it back. I would make some money, I would give it back. And then this hit me one day. And I was looking at my position sizes and I was like, wait a second, there's something wrong here. And so there's a formula that is account risk divided by position risk equals position size. And some of you have maybe figured this out already, but for those of you that haven't, I'm going to save you 10 years of frustration in the next 10 seconds. Account risk divided by position risk equals position size. Right? Let's put a couple more trade examples out here. Let's delete this stuff. Give us a little more room for our drawing. And it doesn't matter what you're trading. It could be stocks, could be futures, could be anything. Get my pen. Let's do another stop, entry, target. Let's do stop, entry, target. And let's say that this one is $50 and 48. And that's 2, so I need 6, 56. And this is going to be, let's just say 600. And this is 590. And this is 630. They're all 3-to-1 risk to reward ratios. But if we go in here and we say, you know what, I always just trade 100 shares, and that's how we start. I just always trade 100 shares. That's what I trade, is 100 shares. Just always 100 shares, or 1,000 shares, or whatever it is, one contract or whatever. A lot of times that can create a lot of problems for you mathematically in your trading. Because what happens in here, these are all 3-to-1 reward to risk ratios. I remember somebody saying to me, if you have these reward to risk ratios in place, you don't have to be right on every trade. But then I realized that's only like half true. If your position sizing isn't done right, then there's actually specific trades that you are required to be right on. Otherwise, you'll just lose money. And so with all of this, it makes it so you don't have to be right on any specific trade. You just have to be right a specific ratio or a specific percentage. So in here, if we were doing 100 shares, well, this risk would be 1 to 300. So we would have a potential loss of 100 and a potential gain of 300. Over here, this is a 2 and a 6. And so this one would be minus 200 plus 600. And over here, we have a 10 and a 30. And so here we have a minus 1,000 or a positive 3,000. This is actually the only trade that even matters. The other two trades don't even matter. because the amount we have at risk, even though the ratios are the same, this is when we're like, oh yeah, I'm really confident in this trade. Or you're revenge trading and it's like, oh man, I lost a bunch of money, I better go get it back. And so we take on even more risk so that we can make more back, and it can be a very damaging cycle to get into. But you can see in here, even if I double my win percentage and I win and I win and then I lose, right? That's a 66% win percentage. And that is losing, right? That's plus 900 minus 1,000. So this is still negative 100 with twice the win percentage. Now, if you're doing account risk divided by position risk equals position size, I'll show you how we do that. Where's my mouse? I lost my mouse for a second. I gotta get the eraser out. All right, let's get rid of some of this stuff. Yeah, all of a sudden I realized that my position size was not the answer. The key was how much I have at risk. And so then I created this little formula. And after I created it, I was showing it to somebody. I was showing it to one of my mentors, and they were like, they looked at me and they were like, you didn't just come up with that. I'm like, yeah, I did. No one showed it to me. And they're like, yeah, but it's still, that's like saying you invented water. they're like, you didn't invent water. They're like, this is how you were supposed to do it the whole time. I said, well, I didn't know. So account risk, if you say you have let's just say you have a $10,000 account and you're going to risk 1% of that account, that's $100. So your account risk is $100. Your position risk is what you have at risk, right? So if we say over here, I'm going to risk $100 per trade, and I'm dividing this by my position risk. That's 1. That means this trade would be 100 shares. Over here, I have my account risk divided my position risk. I'm going to be doing 50 shares. Over here, I have my account risk divided my position risk. I'm going to be doing 10 shares. I'm going to be doing 10 shares. So 10 times 10 and 30 is minus 100 and plus 300. 50 times 2 and 6 is minus 100 plus 300, right? And 100 and our 1 and our 3 is minus 100 and plus 300. So now they're all in balance, and it doesn't matter which one I'm profitable on again, right? Where before there was that one trade, I was required to be profitable on that trade if I was going to be net profitable. If I was going to be net profitable, right, on the whole thing. So account risk divided by position risk. One of my favorite things is like when you're trading futures, like I trade the ES, and so I know it ticks in 25-cent increments. I know each tick is worth $12.50, right? And so from there, it's $50 a point. If I wanted to risk, if it was $100 that I was risking, I could do one contract and I could risk 2 points, right? And that's if or I'd need to go to the micros, right? This would be the minis, or I would go to the micros and I could do 5 micros instead of one contract, and that would be like doing a half mini contract. And so inside of what you're trading, you can go in and figure that out. And then right down here inside of Bookmap, you can set up brackets where it'll do it for you automatically, right? You can set up brackets where it'll do it for you automatically so that when your trade gets filled, it will automatically put the risk in the right spot for your trading plan. It'll have the right risk amount, and then it'll put on a target order for you as well. So you'll have your take profit and you'll have your stop. It's just another way where it becomes more mechanical, right? And it's one of my favorite features in Bookmap. When I first started playing with it, I was just like, I loved that. So I wanted to share that with you. I know that some of you maybe you've already stumbled upon that, but I was probably almost 12 years into my trading before I understood the power of position sizing and how that now puts the law of averages like on your side. That now takes all that capitulation out. And if you're going back through your trades and if you're having some inconsistency in the results that you have, go back through your trades and just look at how much you were risking, right? How much were you risking on each one of those trades? And if those numbers are getting out of whack, and you see where you risked 1,000, and then you risked 500, and then you risked 200, and then you only risked 50. That right there is going to create a lot of just inconsistency in your results, because that's a variable now that you've introduced into your trading. All right, all right, all right. Here we are. Monday morning, we went, what is that? Maybe 5 minutes over? These are usually 30 to 45 minutes. I'm definitely a little bit more long-winded than some of our other team members who do these onboardings. But I also, anytime I get handed a mic and I'm asked to introduce people to the market, I always try to think about what are some of the things that cost me money? What are some of the things that were pitfalls and hurdles as I was getting started, and I try to make sure I share at least one or two of those, and hopefully the position sizing piece of it, and even just some of the supply and demand explanation, will help you be a better trader. Bookmap is a new platform for most people. Most people haven't traded on a platform like Bookmap. Most of the time, we spend our times on the conventional side of things. So one of the things with Bookmap is it is a completely different side of the market. So there will be a little bit of a learning curve in it if you're new, just like anything new. But make sure you understand that it's just a new platform. It's actually not a difficult platform to use. And I bring that up because sometimes when something's new, it seems difficult. But it is just new. And after going in and placing a couple trades, you'll be off to the races. And so here's my Bookmap view of this morning. We've got about 40 minutes before we start getting real active in here. And our limit order is still just sitting. Our limit order is still just sitting up there. But go ahead and cancel that. But yeah, so get in, turn your trade control panel on, make sure you have a quantity. Down here are your brackets where you can set up the parameters that we were just talking about. And then again, you can right click on here and you can add the market depth, or that's what this area to the right of price is. See how there's a dollar symbol next to my cursor there. It makes it so we can trade right off of the chart. You can just click right there and it'll create the orders for you. And then you can shift click to create the other order type. And so that's the shift for the stop order, shift click, and then just click for the limit order. So you can trade right off the chart or right off the order book here. I think, I traded on Thinkorswim for so long, and even, they had the active trader on there is what they called it, that I think I'm just so used to using this, because I know a lot of people actually just prefer the chart. But either way, once you submit the order, then the order will show up on the chart no matter what. So, all right, everybody, have a wonderful week. May all your trades be green, and I look forward to seeing you in another session on Discord. If you haven't got to Discord, make sure you get over there and get set up. That is where the party is. So we'll see you all soon, and have a wonderful week. Thanks, everybody.